Hi there, and welcome to episode 6 of A Priest Crafts. My name is Rebecca Osborne, and I'm coming to you from Iqaluit, Nunavut, which is in the far north of Canada, where my husband and I are Anglican priests at the church here. So, as I said, this is episode 6, and I said that I would do 6 episodes and see where I'm at. I've enjoyed this a lot. I've really enjoyed sharing this way. I've found, obviously it's been a while since I've done this, I've found that I get the urge to make the videos about every other month. So, I may continue to make them, but just sort of as I feel the urge. Because it's sort of part of the creative cycle for me to express, to talk about how my spins are going, to talk about how just to talk about how it's going, and being able to share that with you actually really helps me be motivated in my making. But I'll talk about that more in a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit more about the future of the podcast in a minute. Before I get any further, I should tell you where to find me. My blog is osbornefiber.com, and you can find me on Instagram or on Ravelry as RebbyJ. So yeah, and last time I spoke with you about the Rolags I was working on, and it was really cool. After I spoke to you about the Rolags and how they were going, it just lit a fire under me. It really helped me to get going. I was like, okay, I shared about this. I'm ready to do it. Just somehow some switch flipped and I got the rest of that carding done in like a week, which was huge for me. So I did the last, what would that be, 8 ounces of carding done in about a week, which for me is a big deal because I don't card super fast, and this was not a super fast carding project. And then when was that? That must have been in November, and then Christmas was, Christmas is Christmas, and especially when you're a priest, Christmas is Christmas, and it was glorious and wonderful. But kind of my reward after Christmas was done was to start spinning the singles of the Rolags, and that has been really, no, that's not true. I did start spinning before. I started spinning actually towards the beginning of December, end of November, because I remember now, I put it in my planner. I was trying to spin a bob in a week. That was my goal. It didn't happen. Christmas, it was too crazy in the build up for Christmas. I had too many other things to do, and I was just looking for those nights during the week when I could sit down and spin for a couple hours and get, halfway through a bobbin, a third of the way through bobbin, and it just wasn't happening. So what really changed things for me with this spin was the spin 15 a day challenge. That just totally changed things for me. I went from spinning maybe 1 or 2 nights every couple of weeks, maybe, to spinning every single day. And kind of what gave me permission to do it was I literally set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. And when it goes off, I have to, if I'm in the middle of a Rolag, I'll finish it. But if I'm at the beginning of the Rolag, or if I'm in between, I'll just stop. I have to just stop, and then move on to something else, because I can't. I'm usually spinning when my kids are having their rest or when my daughter's at school, and that 2-hour chunk of time I have in the middle of the day, I can't spend the whole thing spinning anymore. That's just not how my life is. I'm usually having to prep some food or fold some laundry or do some chores or clean something, because it's always, a mess. But I can give myself those 15 minutes. I can't give myself 2 hours, but I can give myself those 15 minutes. And that has been so helpful. Not just because, yes, when you spin for 15 minutes a day, you make progress, which is better than no progress, and because it keeps you in practice. You don't have to relearn what you're doing every day because you remember. But because every day I'm posting those pictures on Instagram and I'm saying, look, I did this 15 minutes, and yeah, it's probably really boring looking at this same wool on my feed every single day, but to be able to post that and say something about it and think about what was going on that day and what was going on in my life that this spinning happened in the middle of, is just really helpful. And then I'm even more motivated when I do get those nights free. I'm super motivated because if I can get an hour, that's like 4 days. Anyway, I blogged about this and I've already gone on too long about it, but yeah, that's been a real game changer for me. So I had 2 bobbins done on the first of the year, and now I'm on my last bobbin. I'm on my 7th bobbin. So, even if I go pretty slow on this, I'll be done in a week. I just can't even tell you how excited I am about that. So here's my, here's 1 bobbin's worth of singles. We have some really wonderful natural light, but it looks like it's making quite high contrast for me, so I don't know if this is going to look quite dark to you. I only have 2 bobbins to do this project right now because I have 2 bobbins that are tied up with other things. So that means that I have to stop what I'm doing and wind off. And what I do is I wind off on a ball winder, which creates a center pull ball. And I just put it on a toilet roll, the toilet paper roll. And this is handy because then I can write the number on the inside there. So that way I can keep track of what order I spun them in, which is going to be quite significant when I go to apply them together. Yeah, so I both like and don't like doing this. I like it because it's handy for labeling and because I can always do it. I don't like it because actually winding it onto the ball winder, first it actually adds a little bit of twist. The process of winding it on, either depending on which direction I spun it, adds or takes away a little bit of twist. So that means that if I do it with 1 bobbin, I have to do it with all my bobbins. And that's just not something I look forward to. It just adds a whole nother step, and applying from them is not my favorite thing. And also winding them off, it can be kind of stressful because sometimes something goes wrong in the winding process. I had one of my balls just like fly off in the middle of winding because I was not paying super perfect attention to it, and it took me half an hour to recover from that, and right now half an hour is kind of a big deal. So I'm seriously thinking about investing in more Ashford standard bobbins, but I'm really torn about it. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I really don't know. I know about the bobbins up with the drill thing, but I'm not going to pull out the drill every time I want to wind off a bobbin. I know that about myself. I'm not going to do that. And I'm nervous about like investing in like the bobbin winder with the storage bobbins, because then you need a ton of storage bobbins, and that's another tool you have to get out. Whereas this, my ball winder, is just sort of always really handy. I always have toilet paper rolls. For some reason, we go through a lot of toilet paper in this house. They're always handy. So yeah, really torn. Don't know what I'm going to do. So enough rambling about that, because who cares about toilet paper rolls. This has been my first really major long draw spin. I have messed around with long draw before, but this was the first time when I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to read up on the technique. I'm going to watch some videos. I'm going to try and actually do long draw proper. What I ended up with was a supported long draw. So, in which I'm drawing back with this hand, and there's plenty of, spin going into the fiber source and all that. And it is definitely a woolen spun yarn, but I'm still supporting with this hand. I find that I need that resistance to pull against. And after talking to some people about it, talking about it on Ravelry with some folks, I think it's partly because my Rolags are not perfect. They're pretty far from perfect in that some of them are well blended and some of them aren't. I've changed techniques halfway through my carding, so they're not all the same. There's definitely some neps and there's some neps in the Shetland, and there's some short pieces in the alpaca, so you know, it's just not smooth enough for me to really just do the one-handed long draw and go. But I ended up with a definite supported long draw that I'm very happy with. So I have a new little webcam that I've been playing with, and I took this little video of me doing supported long draw from a few different angles. And I just put my notes right there in the subtitles. So I'm going to share that with you, and then we'll talk about it. So enjoy. I hope you enjoyed that. You can tell I got a little excited about, I have this teeny tiny little webcam now with a little grabby thing, and I can, before I just had one attached to my computer so I could only take video from wherever I could sit my computer. Now I'm like, oh, I got this little thing. So that's why I did that one shot from the actual flyer, because I got a little excited. So there's so much I could talk about with that video. It was very much like, I have nice natural light, I have a little time, my daughter's on the iPad, I'm just gonna do this. So it's very real. This is just my life. It's which is what I want to do anyway. I have nothing to this is just my life. So you can kind of see how I spin, and I spin on a couch that does not have the best support in the world, you know, and I'm spinning. You'll notice that as I'm doing long draw, my elbow kind of runs into the back of the couch, and I have to either kind of tuck my hand and do this claw thing, or I just have to kind of either go out this way. You know, I have to do something because I run out of space with this couch. So that's something that I've adapted around, and it's a bit of a sinky couch. So I sit with a pillow behind me. If I'm going to be spinning for a long time, I also sit on a pillow so that my hips are actually higher than my knees, because otherwise I just end up really wearing out my knees and my thighs and pushing my wheel across the room because there's too much lateral pressure from my foot. But you know what? You know what I've discovered? For 15 minutes a day, I can put up with a lot. I can put up with twisting my body around all funny. I can put up with having my knees higher than my bum. Because when I'm only spinning for 15 minutes a day, what matters is not perfect positioning. What matters is being able to pull the wheel out into the same place every day and spin consistently the same way every day. And my body can deal with positioning being imperfect. And that's just what I really do. That's what it's really like. Yeah. So ergonomics are important, and having good ergonomics is important. But again, for 15 minutes a day, I can put up with a lot. The other thing I'm experiencing in this spin is I'm actually experiencing the limits of my wheel. I have this Ashford Traditional. I think it was made in the 80s or 90s, I was able to determine. Given it was sold to me at a discount by my very generous boss at the late great Yarns Unlimited in Swickley, Pennsylvania. And so this is the first major long spin that I've done on the 15-to-1 whirl. And what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to pause. I'm going to shift the camera so that you can actually see my mother of all, so you can see what's going on with my flyer assembly. Okay, so here you have a view of my Ashford Traditional. And also, I apologize for the laundry and clutter in the background. I hope it's not too distracting visually. So my Ashford Traditional has 3 whirls. It has a 6-to-1, a 11.5-to-1, and a 15-to-1. And mostly I have used the 6-to-1 and the 11.5-to-1, just because I'm doing a lot of short forward, and I'm just not at a point where I can do 15-to-1 short forward, because I'm a pretty fast treadler. This wheel, I find for me, it needs to be treadled pretty fast to keep it going. And for a long time I couldn't get the 15-to-1 to work. I just couldn't get it to work right. And part of that is because you can see, I have it turned this way so that you can see the alignment of it. It's really made so that only the 6-to-1 actually aligns with the drive wheel. And in order to use the 12-to-1 or the 15-to-1, it has to actually, the drive band has to be quite offset. You can see the angle that the drive band is going on to get to the 15:1 whirl is quite significant. And they've compensated for that by making the groove very angled, somewhat angled in the 11.5:1 and then quite angled in the 15:1. But it still means that you need extra force. Just the physics of it, you need extra force to get the whirl to turn. I've tried various things. I've been in the Ashford group on Ravelry. I've spoken to various people about it. There's no way to get this more aligned, really. I would have to drill this tilts forward and comes off, but I would have to literally drill new holes into the bottom piece where the flyer assembly is attached in order to make this any better. And that's not the best design in my opinion. And now it may also be my fault because of the drive band I'm using. I couldn't get 15:1 to work at all because for a long time I was just using Lily's like sugar and cream for a drive band, and eventually I figured out that's not really the best. So I switched to kind of standard twine, which works. It's got a lot of grab to it, but it is also not very strong, and so I just wear them out very quickly. I have to. This is maybe my third or fourth drive band for this project, which to me is a little much. So if I, maybe if I went back to Ashford and just got their drive band again, maybe that would be better, but I do think that it just puts more force on it, and I'm constantly having to fuss with the drive band tension because it slips. It slips. That's the real problem, is that it slips. And I can hear it. Now I'm really used to it. I can hear it. And so when I hear it slipping, I know I need to tighten it a bit, just the teeniest little bit in order to get it to spin smoothly. And then when it goes great. And I think I've really finally got this wheel where I want it. But that just means that if I got to the point where I wanted to use 15:1 all the time, where I was even doing my short forward on 15:1, I would think about getting a different wheel, or about drilling those new holes, or about switching to a different flyer. And then I just thought that was interesting because that's something we've been talking about in Rachel's Woolen Spinning Group is the limits of our wheels. And I thought I would never run into the limits of this wheel. I love this wheel, and I will probably keep it forever because it's just it's really reliable, and it's very standard, and you can get parts for it easily, and Ashford is a fantastic company. But yeah, so that's been something I've been thinking about, is running into the limits of this wheel. So I'm going to shift back here. So I guess I should talk about one more thing, and that is the actual Longdraw itself. I haven't actually talked about what I'm doing very much. I shared some of my notes that you saw in the video itself, but yeah, I find doing Longdraw just so different as a manual experience than doing short forward. Short forward is kind of the polar opposite. It's very mechanical. It's just you're really kind of learning how to do the exact same thing with your hands every time without thinking. And that's kind of your goal, is to kind of make your fingers into this really reliable machine that can just go and go and go and be consistent with your treadles, and that's it's can get a little bit brainless eventually, and I love that. I love, sort of, maybe you could call it like the stockinette of spinning once you get really good at it, to get to the point where you're spinning without even looking. And Longdraw is just the opposite. It's just the opposite because, and I'm sure there are spinners out there who are really good at Longdraw, who can do it without even thinking or looking or whatever. So this is also me. But I find that, pulling it back, I have to look at it. I have to feel it through my fingers. And I am still counting treadles. My little card says 11 treadles to couch, elbow to couch, because that's my literal unit of measure. And checking against my apply back sample and the singles. So 11 treadles, arm to couch. I am still counting that. And amazingly, you can get used to counting to 11 for a million times. It took me a while, but you can get used to that. But I have to look at it every single time. I have to look at it because every single time is different. You know, there might be some slubs here and there. There might be, you know, I'm quite often rolling down slubs. Sometimes, you didn't see it in this video, but sometimes I am actually double drafting, and that there's a thicker portion, and then I can kind of pull back on it a little bit more until it evens out. Yeah, and that's just, it's really, it's tactile in a very different way than, you know, say short forward or short backward are, or even off the fold. You know, which is still it still ends up being kind of that same, the way I do it anyway, the way I've been doing it, it's that same kind of inchworm motion, whereas this is just this big motion, and what's happening with the yarn is just different. It's different every time, and that's, you know, my inconsistent Rolex too. I'm aware of that. But yeah, it means that for those 15 minutes a day, I can't, like, talk to myself. I can't sing. I can't really even pray. I just sort of have to let my mind wander because I'm counting to 11 and I'm paying attention to what's happening with this length of yarn right now. And I can do that for those 15 minutes a day. You know, if it's the evening and we're watching like a Star Trek or something, I'm kind of only half watching it because I'm back here. I'm doing this, I'm pulling, I'm rolling, and it's been just my speed for right now. I wouldn't want this spin to be any longer, and I've really definitely appreciated how quickly Longdraw goes, but it's been a different kind of spinning experience, and I've really enjoyed it. If I do another big Longdraw spin, I will work on those ergonomics a bit more, but for now, this has been just my speed. So hopefully I will finish these singles in another week, and then I will ply it up quick as you like. I do find that my singles are a bit thinner. You know, I check them against my sample card, which I have right here. Just show it to you. I check them against my sample card every day. See, elbow to couch says right there. And it, you know, kind of at my thickest, it's about as thick as the thinnest piece on here. I find that happens to me a lot when I'm spinning. I think it's probably analogous to how your gauge is a little bit different on, say, a big sweater than it was on your swatch. Just because you relax into a spin, you get more comfortable with the fiber. You know, you get faster. I really have to watch that I don't get too fast and start putting less twist in. That's something I've really had to pay more attention to. But so it may end up a bit thinner than this, which I would be quite happy with, because this is at least kind of an errand. But it will probably be rustic like this because my singles have not been gloriously consistent, and I want to put a good bit of twist on it so that even though it's woolen and a 2-ply, that it's sturdy enough for a sweater. I don't have a pattern yet because I'm really waiting to see how much yardage I get. It's 1.5 pounds of fiber. It's not a ton, and so I won't be able to make this huge house coat kind of sweater out of it, which is sort of what I, for some reason, thought I was going to manage. But I just find that the sweaters I actually wear are cardigans that are big and cozy, and I just throw them on. They're kind of house coats that are disguised as sweaters. That's what I really wear a lot. But yeah, I'm so stoked to have this, to be almost done this spin, to be almost done my first sweater spin of the year. Maybe not my last sweater spin of the year, who knows? So that is what I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Thank you for spending the time. Time is precious, and for you to spend that listening to me and interacting with me means a lot. So Thank you. Again, for the future of this podcast, I'm having this baby, Lord willing, in 2.5 months, right? So whether I podcast again before that, I don't know. I'm gonna go with the flow and see what I have to share and how I want to share it. I do really believe I need to be disciplining myself to share in a more substantial way than on Instagram. So either with a video or with a blog post, because it really helps. It just helps me to reflect and kind of put the cap on that creative process to say, this is what I learned, and it carries me forward into the next thing. So I really want to keep doing that in some way, but it has to fit into my life, and I can't fit my life around it, so it's going to be what it is. So again, thanks for hanging with me and for being, just for watching and enjoying, and for all the nice things you say. And please share with me your experiences with Longdraw and your critiques or your suggestions. Share with me about your Ashford traditionals and what you've done to make it work better. Share with me what you use for your drive bands. I would really love to know that stuff. It's really helpful to me to hear what other people have done to solve their problems. And I never want to mislead anybody, so I will come back and edit things if I've misinformed anyone. So please do share that either here in the comments on YouTube or on my blog, which is osbornefiber.com. God bless you. Have an awesome February to power through until winter is over. And yeah, I'll see you when I see you. Have a good one.